Take two. Okay, guys, just wanted to say, okay, so this video is getting done for a reason. I always found it interesting when YouTube channels that I watched all of a sudden just stopped producing content. There was no reason given. And I thought it would be interesting to go back and sort of look at why that happened. There were a number of reasons. And at the same time, I'm trialing some new equipment, which is for a video podcast that I'll be doing, but it won't necessarily have board game content. In fact, it will be unlikely that it will have any at all. But I'm trialing two different cameras, so you'll see me changing camera angles, and that's me practicing editing, practicing setting up different equipment and stuff like that. So that's why you'll see different camera angles. I wanted to do a video, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to sort of kill two birds with one stone. So, what happened? Okay, we need to sort of go back, and I'm trying to find my YouTube channel, and at the moment I'm having troubles finding it. So, I just want to get an idea of what the dates were when it all sort of happened. Right, so 6 years ago was how to paint miniatures. So okay, 2013. That would make sense. So around 2013, I was living on the outskirts of Sydney, and that's where most of my videos were recorded, in an apartment block there. And I was working, a big factor was I was working 5 days a week. I had two local gamers that were in 15-20 minute drive from my place that I'd game with mostly on sort of Saturdays or Friday nights. Pretty cool. But for those of you who understand the market, particularly in Sydney, the property market, the rent was very high and you didn't get much for your money. And then my wife and I wanted to buy property, as I'm sure that's the goal for a lot of people, is to get into the property market. And it was very hard, very expensive. Sydney is one of the most expensive cities to live in the entire world. And it was tough. It was really hard. So, a long story short, without getting too far into it, I moved away, about an hour and a half away from my two gaming friends there that I game with most in Sydney. And that obviously put distance between me and my games. It did move me closer to my other game group, which were in Newcastle, which is, it's still about an hour from where I am. But I'll talk more about what happened there as well. Nothing bad. But during 2013, there was a lot going on. And it was hard to get gaming time in when you're running around, trying to organise things. And it also came at a time where Kickstarter was massive. Like, I reckon back then, I probably could have spent more time on Kickstarter looking at games than on Board Game Geek. They were just all over Kickstarter. And in this country, it was, when it first came out, it was very prohibitive because not a lot of people would ship here. If they did, the shipping was usually more expensive than the game. And so the hotness just completely sort of died for me because it was almost unobtainable. I wanted to, part of the enjoyment of the hobby was, everyone ran towards the hotness, and then you'd be in the forums together chatting and discussing various elements of the game. And for me, a massive part was reviewing the games. I loved reviewing them. I loved reviewing games as much as I loved playing them. And so with the hotness sort of unobtainable, well, that was it for me. The Kickstarter just sort of made it hard. And I know that things have changed now where they do sort of like this drop ship thing where the shipping is cheaper and that, but it lost a little bit of its flair for me. And particularly when I saw publishers using Kickstarter, that's when I was kind of like, what? That's not what it was intended for. Not in my opinion anyway. But then, looking back at it, a few of these publishers, we look at the publishers, or I did, as being these big, companies, and then after a while in the game, I suppose you realise that they're not huge. Like, the market's not that big. But that brings me back to another thing. Now, in Australia, you can walk into like these pop culture shops and they have board games. You can get like good board games from there. They're not cheap, but you can get them. 2013, like 6 years ago, nope. They were not available everywhere. You had dedicated gaming shops. There wasn't a lot of them. And you definitely couldn't walk. Here you can walk into the shopping malls now and get some gaming fix. And then you definitely couldn't. You had to organise a day to go to a gaming shop or order it online or whatever you did. So Kickstarter was a factor where it came in and my interest started going downhill because I couldn't, it was not a worthwhile acquisition to pay $80 in postage and $60 for a pledge. And then the property market was another thing. So when I did physically make the move, traveling to game, I never did, and it was nothing. I would love to travel to game with the people that I used to game with. And people might say, oh, well, it's only an hour or so to do it. But when I moved here, shortly after I moved here, I had to commute for an hour and 10, an hour and 20 minutes a day each way to get to work. And I went to an industry that went to 6 days a week. And so even now, I can't get in a car, like basically to do anything. By the time my 1 day free is available, I'm wrecked. I'm out. You know what I mean? You're almost dead to the world. And this sort of made it, not only was gaming not high on my priority list, I just couldn't drive at night either to Newcastle, where my gaming group would be now, and I did a few times, but not regularly because I was exhausted. So 6 days a week, for anyone who works it, will understand that for the first 2 weeks, you're right, but after a couple of years of it, it really affects every part of you. You're not getting downtime. You're not able to do anything. So all I did was work. And it does your head in. And anybody who owns a business who has their staff working 6 days a week, you're not getting the most out of them. And I would say that to them. You're not getting the most out of people. You're not allowing them to rest. But no one would care. It was just money, and that's all there was to it. So time restraints was definitely a big factor. And it started sort of when I first moved here. I was gaming a little bit. I did play a bit of Warhammer and Age of Sigmar. A little bit of Zombie Side, and a few other odds and ends that, just games that we hadn't played in a while, but no historical gaming and no war gaming. I wasn't doing that, which is something that was sort of where my interest was when I made the move. So that was hard. But basically, I think time was definitely the biggest one. And then now that I'm starting to get a bit of time back, not a lot at all, I still can't do the travel. And it's too much to ask your gaming group to come to you. because it's a long way away, and usually it involves 3 people coming to me when those 3 people live close together. So it makes more sense for me to go to them. But the travel is just, like today, I spent probably 3.5 hours driving in the car, like because of work and running around to work, and it's too much. You don't want to come home, begin to unwind, and then go out for a drive. After a while, and we're talking, 6 years of it. We're not talking, 6 months. So, yeah, so my interest in gaming just it's slowly faded. I was gaming sort of once every month, then once every 2 months, and once every 6 months, and then just never. I still own a collection of games. I can't bring myself to get rid of a lot of them. And hopefully one day that I'll see them at the table again, but I'm not confident that I will see a lot of them, that's for sure. And I'm okay with that. I've got a lot of other things keeping me occupied. But that's basically what happened with me in gaming. Time. I just didn't have the time. And I've tried to get back into it, but it's too hard. You can't really pick up where you left off. So you're sort of lost when you're looking at you're back to the start. And that's sort of confusing and strange. So anyway, that's a quick video of what happened. I'm going to enjoy editing this video and working on this new system, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, I'm not sure this video will ever actually go out there, but if it does, the board gaming community was always a community that I enjoyed the company of. They were always very supportive with my videos, and there's something to be said about that. Because in other industries, the opposite is true. People try and shut you down. It can be really, really difficult. But I always found the board gaming community, for the most part, really, really, really good. And it makes me wonder now, because as I said, you've got people in the malls selling product, gaming product. And it's become more mainstream, and it certainly has. I think Cards Against Humanity did a bit for it there. And I've got a funny story, actually. One of the times we gamed, and I'm just going to say it, but I hope Duff, if you're listening, to stop the video now. But we had a Bucks night, and we were playing Cards Against Humanity with telestrations. So basically, you would play telestrations with the Cards Against Humanity descriptions. So if any of you have played telestrations, I would highly recommend that combination, because it led for some of the funniest drawings you've ever seen in your life, and it was just crazy rude. So it was great for a Bucks night, and I always tell the story. The funny thing was, we had 2 ladies of sorts there, and when it was over, they wanted to play a few more hands before they left, because they didn't want to leave, because everyone was just cracking up and having fun. So it was always a really funny story. But if you ever get the chance, whip out telestrations and the Cards Against Humanity cards, and you'll be in for a ride if you like rude stuff. Anyway, so I think that did something for the mainstream aspect, but I'm sort of wondering, is the board gaming community, now that it's becoming a little bit more mainstream in this country anyway, is it still the same? Are the people still, for the most part, good? Or are you starting to get those dickheads that you get when anything goes mainstream? You know what I mean? Like, you've only got to look at, I don't know, there's nothing I can say here that's going to be, not sound like I'm the dickhead, but anything that's gone mainstream in the past seems to, because you get more of every kind of person, you get more dickheads. So that was a curiosity that I had, whether things had changed there, but I suppose I'd have to get back into it to see. But I don't see myself playing games anytime soon, and I'm certainly not going to be producing content anytime soon. Things change, as they changed in 2013. They might change again. And hopefully if I do get more time, I might pick up a few games. I did play one of the escape games. I think it's a Cosmos or something. It was a little escape thing, and that was pretty good. So I've had like odds and ends of games, but just never really a sit down at a table with other people and play. But it could happen one day. Anyway, guys, this is me signing off. I'm going to edit this video and talk soon. See you later.